Hello, I'm the Beauty Professor, and you can find my beauty blog at www.beautyprofessor.net. Today I'm excited to share my top 5 winter fragrances. And this is after much deliberation and, of course, being in the dead of winter, at which point I'm able to determine which fragrances I'm finding myself turning to time and time again in this cold weather. Despite being a top 5 list, I will be presenting these in no particular order or ranking. And that is because I do appreciate each of these 5 fragrances equally, and it just depends on my mood and what the weather is like outdoors, which will inspire me to put on one of these 5. I'm going to start today with a perennial favorite, and that is the Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. Now, in hasty reference, I often call this fragrance Tom Ford Tobacco Vanilla because I do not speak French, but I have heard it pronounced the correct way, and that would be something more along the lines of vanille, and so I will do my best to replicate that pronunciation. This is a fragrance I received well over a year ago, and it's rare for me to run through a single fragrance. When I hold this up to the light, I noticed that I'm about 2/3 of the way down in the bottle, and that's significant for me because I'm rather fickle when it comes to fragrances. This is definitely on my winter fragrance list, but I need to be frank when I say that I do wear it year round. It's my go-to fragrance when I just need to put something on the way out of the house, in the morning, in the evening. It's just delicious, and if you like the smell of kind of sweet, smoky vanilla mixed with an unexpected twist of tobacco that kind of hardens it up a little bit, and I mean that in the best possible way, then this is the fragrance for you. All Tom Ford fragrances are definitely an investment price point wise, but for me it was worth it. I got this as a gift for my birthday from my husband, and because I have used it so faithfully and so regularly, I definitely feel like this was a worthy investment for me. It's a unique fragrance. It is unisex, which means that a man can get away with wearing it as well. But for me, I feel like it never morphs into anything cloying or unpleasant. It's something I'm basically always in the mood to spray on my skin, and I do just love smelling my wrist after I have sprayed it. So my first dead of winter fragrance is the Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. The next winter fragrance I'll be discussing is that of the Rouge Incantation. And this is something I've been using in sample size since receiving it from the company a few months back. And when I first sprayed it, it wasn't quite cold enough, in my opinion, for me to wear this on a regular basis. This is such a fragrant scent. It's classified as an oriental floral, but what I get from this particular perfume is a lot of fig, some vanilla, some honey, which I think is classified as beeswax in the rundown, as well as rose. It has a green kind of freshness, but because all of these scents are essentially colliding together in a really unique way, I find that because it's so potent, it works best for me in the cooler winter months. Every time I spray this on, I'm pleased with how unique it smells. It's definitely unlike anything else on the market from my experience. And goodness, the Rouge line always does such a great job of executing fanciful yet utterly gorgeous cosmetics as well as fragrances, and this is no exception. So the Rouge Incantation perfume, excellent for those who love fig, vanilla, rose, woodsy green scents, and a little musk thrown in for good measure. Next up is a really fascinating fragrance from the Spanish fragrance line Ramon Monegal, and this is Curiel. I've mentioned this before in video. I included it in my best products of 2013 because that was the point at which I had discovered it, and I was just completely taken by it. And my feelings since then have definitely not changed. This is a beautiful winter fragrance, and just so you can see what's going on with the bottle, it's this flacon that is glass, it's beveled, it's got a very Art Deco feel with this lovely top that pulls back but is still hinged. And scent is predominantly leather. This is a very sophisticated fragrance, and of all the fragrances I'm discussing today that are definitely unique in their own ways, I would say this is the most unique. It's something that you just don't encounter on a regular basis, and that's probably due in part to the fact that it's such a niche independent perfume line, beautifully executed, of course. I have to say, when I first smelled it, I was just taken aback by how powerfully the notes work together. It's almost like you can't put a finger on what it is you're smelling, you just know that it's delightful. The lasting power on this particular fragrance is extremely significant. The Ramon Monegal line is beautiful, and my experience with Curiel has been exceptional. Highly recommended for this winter time. Next, the fourth fragrance I'll be discussing is that of the Prada Amber. And I received this fragrance after requesting it for a birthday years ago. This fragrance was actually released in 2004, so it's been on the market for a decade. I remember having a woman walk by me at the mall and stopping her and asking her what it was she was wearing, because it was just so interesting and warm and inviting smelling, and she told me it was this Prada Amber, and I hadn't really given much thought to this perfume up until that point. But when I smell Prada Amber, my nose is just filled with this really rich, kind of opulent, sensuous, sweet, semi-vanilla, definitely some sandalwood. I claim to be no expert in the perfume description department, so I'm purely speaking about these extemporaneously in an impromptu fashion. But I will say that I love everything about this particular fragrance. The vanilla is warm, it's creamy, and the dry down on this is amazing. It does last for a really long time as well. If you have not tried this fragrance ever, or maybe in a long time, I invite you to revisit it, because it is just exceptional for a winter fragrance. I can't imagine myself wearing this particular fragrance in the summertime, because it does have some extremely strong notes. I classify this kind of as a very powerful, intense skin scent, but with a little extra oomph thrown in for good measure. It wears on the skin for an inordinate amount of time. Certainly a brilliant winter fragrance, and perhaps worth a revisit for those of you who are interested. And my fifth winter fragrance is the Flagrant Delice by Thierry de Gunsberg, of the famed By Terry line that I adore. The Flagrant Delice I've been experiencing in the form of a sample as well. Because it's so potent, the sample has lasted me for a long time. The notes on Flagrant Delice are really fascinating. There is almond milk, which I just would classify as a generally creamy kind of feeling. Also, a prominent scent of fig, which seems to be a trend amongst winter fragrances that I've been choosing. There is a sweet tonka vanilla going on in this particular fragrance, and also a rich bergamot aroma. So these elements work together to create a very fresh, warm, sweet skin scent. And it's musky only so far as the vanilla and the bergamot kind of work in tandem to create that musky feeling. Overall, it's absolutely marvelous. When I first tried out this sample right after a shower, I went into the kitchen to help with dinner. My husband tends to do most of the cooking, and I gave him kind of a quick hug, and he said, "Your hair smells amazing." And I thought to myself, I didn't use anything out of the ordinary on my hair. It was my normal shampoo, which is basically nominally scented. I said, "Are you sure it's my hair?" And he leaned in again and took another sniff, and really he said, "No, what are you wearing? What is that fragrance?" And I said, "It's this new one from By Terry that I'm trying out." And honestly, that was the confirmation I needed to know that this was right. Oftentimes I love a fragrance and my husband might be ambivalent about it, or he might love something and I might feel like, I don't know if this is me. Fragrances that I'm discussing in this video collectively are fragrances that we agree upon. And this one I knew I loved from the moment that I tried it, but when he was trying to figure it out, he said, "Do you want this for Valentine's Day?" I said, "Absolutely." So I can't wait to get a full bottle of this. It is one of those transitional fragrances that I think makes perfect sense in the winter, but I can also envision myself wearing this in the springtime. It's a little bit lighter than the other four fragrances, which are just absolutely impeccable for winter. So I see this being one that'll take me into the spring months and maybe even into the summer. I do love kind of creamy musk, vanilla, sweet scents that reside close to the skin as opposed to emanating outward. And this is one of those scents, but it does have good lasting power. And I would expect nothing less than the penultimate of quality from the By Terry line. So highly recommend the Flagrant Delice, and I'm sure I'll do a close-up blog post on this when I might find myself in possession of a full-size bottle. That concludes my top 5 fragrances for winter. I would love to reiterate that I in no way claim to be a fragrance expert. In fact, I'm always transfixed by videos and written reviews by fragrance aficionados who seem to have such an impressive command of the lexicon necessary to effectively describe fragrances. I find myself constantly wanting to use the same positive, effusive words to describe the fragrances that I adore. But I assure you those words are heartfelt and authentic because I'm passionate about the fragrances I like to use on a regular basis. I hope you enjoyed this winter fragrance rundown, and I welcome your questions and your comments, and I would love to hear what fragrances you're finding yourself using during the winter. As always, please don't forget to visit me at my beauty blog, Beauty Professor, which can be found at www.beautyprofessor.net. Take care.